Okay, this is lesson 1.7, multiplying and dividing integers. And our objectives here are going to be learn the properties of multiplying and dividing integers, learn the also properties of integers with exponents in them, what happens when an integer has an exponent. Learn substitution. When we substitute in integers into a problem, we have to use the order of operations. Learn substitution with dividing integers. Here we're multiplying and then also dividing integers through substitution. Learn integer multiplication with application. And also application problems with division in it. Okay, so it sounds like a lot, but we'll go through this pretty quickly. Okay, let's look at there's a pattern here. We multiply a positive number times a positive number, we get a positive number. Okay, so here this hasn't changed. Okay, hold on, let me slow down here. Yeah. Now, when we multiply a negative number times a positive number, in each one of these cases we get a negative number times a positive number, we get a negative. Okay? So this suggests that every time we multiply a negative number times a positive number, we get a negative number. Okay? All right, questions with that? Okay, now here we have a positive number times a negative number, and we get a negative. And positive times negative, we get a negative. And then 0 times a negative, we still get 0. Okay, so there we have a pattern here. Positive times a negative, we get a negative. Whereas the fourth pattern, we have a negative times a negative, we get a positive. And that's that way every time. So when we have two negatives multiplied together, negative times negative, we get a positive. Whereas the other times where we have either a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, doesn't matter. Okay, we have one negative times one positive, we get a negative. Okay? All right, so questions with that? All right, so if we were to multiply, 2 times 4, those are two positive numbers, we get 8. That hadn't changed. But if we have a negative 2 times a negative 4, we get a positive 8. But here we got a positive number times a negative, positive 2 times a negative 4, we get a negative 8. Negative 2 times a positive 4, we get a negative 8 that way too. Okay, so that just kind of reinforces what we just looked at. Questions there? So this is like a little chart here. Positive times positive is a positive, negative times negative is a positive. And then here we have one negative times a positive, we get a negative. And notice this is an odd number, right? This is an even number of negatives up here. Negative times negative is a positive. So if you have 4 negatives, negative times negative times negative times negative, that's still going to be a positive, even number. Odd number, like negative times negative times negative is a negative. That's right. Okay, so you can look at this like this is negative times negative is a positive, change the signs. You can just make them a positive. As long as you got two negatives together, you can cross and change them and make them positives. All right. Division is like multiplication. We have a positive divided by a positive, we get a positive. Just like positive times a positive. So here we have a negative number divided by a positive, we get a negative. Just like we have a negative times a positive, we get a negative. And here now the positives in the numerator, the negatives in the denominator, that doesn't matter. It's just one positive, one negative. Is going to divide one positive divided by one negative, one positive number divided by one negative number is still going to give you a negative.
Okay, so 1 minute.
Okay.
So the way of the division still goes by the same sign rules of multiplication.
That's right. That's right. Division properties where you have two numbers that are negative, like negative 6 divided by negative 2, negative divided by negative, you can positive, you can make them, cross out the negatives, right? You got two negatives, so you can make that a positive, and you end up with a positive for an answer. Here, you have negative number divided by a positive number, that's still going to be negative, like negative times a positive is a negative. Here, negative, positive number divided by negative, so you can see that whether the negative is in the numerator or the denominator, if one's negative and one's positive, you're still going to get a negative answer. Okay? All right, any questions with that? Okay. So here, the division is long ways. It doesn't matter if the division is long ways or like a fraction or rational number, what we call a rational number. Okay? Doesn't matter. The properties of division are the same. So here's positive number divided by positive is positive. Here, negative number divided by negative number, that's still going to be a positive. So if you have to, you can always change this form to a fraction form. But the first number is always in the numerator, the second number is always in the denominator. If it helps you to write it that way. Here we got a positive number, a negative number divided by a positive number, negative 12 divided by positive 4, we get a negative 3. Again, one number is negative, one number is positive, your answer is a negative. Positive 12 divided by negative 4, again. Positive number divided by negative number is a negative number. Okay? Questions with that? Okay, so here's this little chart here for division. Okay, negative divided by negative is a positive, and then here's one number's positive, one's negative, you get a negative. Same with the other one. Okay? All right, questions with that? All right, so let's take a look at some problems. And let's say that we have, we want to evaluate seven xy given x equals to a negative 6, y equals to a positive 8. So with this 7xy, you want to think of it like you're cutting out the x and you put parentheses. And you cut out the y and you put parentheses. So this will be 7, parentheses where the x was, parentheses where the y was. So this is 7 times x times y. So this will be 7 times whatever we put in there for it. Yeah. So you have to pay particular attention that the x is negative 6. That negative 6 goes in where the x is. And then the y is going to be 8. Now you have to be careful here because if this order is switched, it's not necessarily the same order that they gave it to you in. So you have to pay close attention to that. Okay, now what are we going to do here? Well, between the 7 and the 7 times negative 6 is negative 42 times 8. Positive 8, right? So we got a negative 42 times 8, right? So 2 times 8, that's 16. 32, 33. But is that right? Negative 336. Okay, and so that's our answer. Okay, questions with that? All right, let's take a look at this next problem here. And here it says that Joe Nordstrom lost $400 on each 7 consecutive days in the stock market. How much did he lose each day? $400. He lost $400 each day. Represent this total loss as a product of sine numbers and find its total loss. So he lost $400 in how many days? 7 days. So we want to know how much did he lose altogether. So that's where we have 7 times. We use a negative because of the loss. So 7 times 4 is 28, right? So 7 times 400 is going to be 2,800. We got a negative 400, so that's going to be negative 2,800. Okay, so his total loss was $2,800. All right, questions with that? Okay. Now
You didn't say Joe's loss was a negative 220.
Yeah, because it says loss, but if you add
Well-
it and don't put the negative sign, will that mean
Loss meaning.
now, because the loss
Okay, that's
identifies the negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I had to put that negative in front of that 28, I'd have missed that question. Well, I missed it.
yes?
Yeah.
And if
Well, you mean, okay, now 7 times negative 400 is going to be negative 2,800. That's why that's negative 2,800. Now that negative is replaced with a loss. So the loss means negative. So you wouldn't want to put loss of a negative 2,800, right? Because then that's kind of like minus of a minus.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
Make sure I leave that alone.
Yeah.
Took care of it.
Yeah, it is. I can see why somebody would be confused with where you put negative, because some answers you did put a negative, and this one you're not.
Sure I did.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're not putting a negative.
We're done because the loss here represents the negative. All right. Okay. In 2005, there were 13,922 new movie titles. Okay, so here in 2005, 13,922. In 2005, there were 13,922 new movies, or new DVDs. Okay? In 2007, the number dropped to 12,050. Okay, so in 2007, the number of DVDs dropped to 12,050. Okay. All right. Find the change in the number of new movie titles from 2005 to 2007. So we know it went from 13,922 and it dropped to 1250, but we want to know how many did we lose? Okay, so with that, what do we have to do? Here's 2005. We had 13,922, and 2007 we had 12,050 videos or DVDs. Okay, we want to find the change. Part A, find the change. We want to find the change. So, and DVDs. So, what are we going to do here? Subtract, that's right. We're going to subtract. Okay, so we have to borrow, right? So I'm going to rewrite this down here. Minus 12,050. So we have to borrow, right? Or actually, this one we don't, because that's just a 0.
I got 18.
So this will be 2 here, but we have to borrow, make that an 8. That's 12. That'll be a 7. And then this will be 8. 3 minus 2 is 1. So there was a loss of 1,872, right? Okay, questions with that? All right, now part B, it asks, find the average change per year. And how many years are we talking about? 2.
2 divided.
Okay, so that find the 2-year, find the average per year. Find the average loss per year. And since there were 2 years, okay, we want to find the average. So what are we going to do? We're going to divide, right? 1872 divided by 2. Okay, so we can say that 2 goes into 18, and that'll be 9. And so let's go ahead and work it out this way, long ways. This will be 2, 1872. That'll be 9, right? That's 18. And so 7, that'll be 3, right? 6, that'll be 12. 936 is our answer. Okay? All right. Questions with that? Okay. Now, let's take a look at some of the homework problems that people have been, historically people have trouble with, and with exponents. And here we want to simplify, and here we have 2 types of problems. One is negative 3 parentheses squared, and the other one is negative 3 squared, no parentheses. Okay, the first one, I'm going to do this. The first one, you square both the negative and the 3. And so that's going to give you a positive or a negative 9. That'll give you a positive 9, right? Because the negatives cancel out. And I put the plus there because I just want to emphasize that it's positive. Now, let's say that we have here a negative 3 parentheses squared, but negative 3 squared, no parentheses. So this, we're going to square what this time? Here we square the negative. The first one, we square the negative and the 3, but the second one, what are we squaring? The 3, right, but what about the negative?
You see, the negative don't matter. The negative doesn't matter. It's still you're squaring the 3.
You're just squaring the 3, right. You're just squaring the 3 because the negative is not in parentheses. So you don't square the negative, you just square the 3. And so this will be a positive or negative 9. Negative 9. So one of them has parentheses, negative 3, close parentheses squared. The other one, no parentheses. And so you only square the 3, not the negative, because the negative is not included as a part of the square, as part of the exponent. Okay? Yes?
So the rule is if the exponent is accompanied by a parenthesis, then you square the sign and the number?
That's right.
If it's outside of a parenthesis, You don't.
That's right. You don't square the negative, just the number. What's that? Well, think of it this way, that if you had like x, y, parentheses squared like that, you would square everything in the parentheses, right? And so that would be x squared, y squared. But if you only had x, y squared like that, no parentheses, or this is x to the first. Just the x is squared, not the y. So you see, it's kind of the same thing. You can look at this negative like it's, well, I'm not going to go there. So just think of it like in that same manner, okay? And here the same thing, is parentheses, you're squaring both terms, okay? So it's not, I mean, it looks like different rules, but really it follows the same rules as other things, okay? All right, any other questions with that? All right. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more problems, and then we'll work on some homework. And here we have find the product. Find the product of negative 42 and negative 6. All right, go ahead and try that. Okay. Yeah, that's right. This what operation are we doing? Adding, subtracting. We're multiplying, right? So this would be negative 42 times the negative 6. And so negative times negative is a positive, and we get 2 positive 252. Okay? So the key here was product means to multiply. All right, questions with that? All right, one more. All right, now we want to divide a number by negative 33. Okay, and we'll use x for any unknown values. Okay?
Okay, that would be 33 divided by x.
Well, you have to be careful
X on the top.
because it's always the first number, and I'll use hash tag for number. First number, it's divided by second number. So it's always first number over second. Okay? So whatever comes first in the sentence is always in the numerator. Okay? So in this case, what would go in the numerator? X, right, over negative 33, right. Now, if we were to write this, now let's say we were to say, all right, what if we were to write divide divide negative 27 by a number. Now how would you write that?
27 over there.
Yeah, negative 27 over x, because negative 27 was first in the sentence. So that negative 27 would be first
So when it
And
says divide a number, then you know that's going to be X.
that's right.
And then when it says divide by 27, then that goes on top. When it says
Yeah,
divide-
yeah. Whatever goes first in the sentence, that's what goes first
That's what you divide 27,
in
let's divide
in the
27
division,
by. Okay.
in the numerator. Okay.
It's just about that. That tells us exactly what to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is.
Yeah. So with division, order matters. Like subtraction, order matters.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And so that's all you had to do for that. All right. Questions there?
Move back up to the top.
Uh-huh. All right. And so this one,
X was first in the sentence.
right.
Yeah, it said divide a number. Yeah.
Right. Divide a
The
number.
number was X.
Yeah,
Got it.
number-
So we don't know what the number was, so the number was X.
Right.
Okay.
Can I ask you this? Why?
Yeah.
Did somebody ask you that?
What?
Never mind.
No, go ahead.
You got it?
Well,
Yeah, 'cause I-
why would we have a problem like this? Because we're starting off small. We're just covering one little piece,
I'll be
and then
right
we're going to
behind you.
build on that. What's that?
I'll be trying. I'm like, what's the number?
Yeah, we don't know what the number is, right? So the number is X.
Yeah, I did that at first.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Questions with that? All right. We're going to go ahead and stop this.